So, part 2 of the self-proclaimed pros Terraria Master Mode playthrough, and we go straight into it by using the farm made in pre-hard mode in order to obtain money, souls, and a few other useful items. A quick side note, I wanted to say thank you to the Little Furnace 2 for your comment and feedback. I appreciate any sort of feedback, and anyone who wants to can feel free to comment. Thanks. Previously, with the wall of flesh defeated, I now have an extra accessory slot, and received the firecracker, the first whip of hard mode. After no time at all, I got the frozen turtle shell, an item dropped by ice tortoises that gives a 25% damage reduction when my health gets below 50%. This item goes well with the worm scar, together giving 42% damage reduction. At the farm, I also got rid of the demon altar that I previously couldn't remove, blessing my world with cobalt. And, in addition to all the items I found, there were also 2 keys, the jungle and frozen key. Going down into the crimson and filling in the missing ores by breaking demon altars, the world was blessed with mithril and titanium. My next course of action was to mine up the ore and get tool upgrades, as well as the mithril anvil. While searching, I found and caught a truffle worm, used to summon Duke Fishron later on. If you are searching for adamantite or titanium, it is easier to search the roof of the underworld, where small clusters usually appear. The twins decided to give me a visit at night, and even though I tried, I was not able to beat them. After my defeat, I decided to get armor and summon upgrades by going underground and farming for the spider side. Parts of the clip had its audio messed up, so the audio might sound a bit off. Sorry about that. I tried to substitute some parts to the best of my ability. With the armor crafted, I also made the cool whip from souls and an ice core dropped by ice golems when a blizzard happens. Together with the firecracker, I can increase tag damage by hitting enemies with both whips. Skeletron also decided that it was time to visit, and in the same fashion as the twins, I lost the battle. The last 2 fights had shown me that I lacked mobility, so I took the opportunity whilst a blizzard had started to appear to obtain the ice feather from ice golems to craft the frozen wings. With all the souls I gathered, I decided to craft Keys of Night in order to spawn Crimson Mimics for me to get the Life Drain, a solid magic weapon capable of healing me by damaging enemies and absorbing their life. I had more magic weapons in mind and went out gathering materials. First, I needed Ichor to craft the Golden Shower, a weapon that applies the Ichor debuff, lowering the defense of enemies. The second weapon was the Spirit Flame, which is crafted from the Desert Spirit Lamp, Souls, and Forbidden Fragments. The fragments are dropped by sand elementals whilst the sandstorm is happening. which I had to wait for a really long time, since for a sandstorm to appear, some, in my opinion, ridiculous conditions are supposed to be met. The requirements for a sandstorm are that it needs to be raining at night whilst wind speeds are above 30 miles per hour, making it quite a rare event. Whilst underground, I also collected gelatin crystals to later on fight Queen Slime. After some grinding, I finally found the last of the accessories needed to craft the Terra Spark boots, the ultimate movement accessory, giving me benefits from all the combined accessories, such as increasing my movement speed, the ability to walk on liquids, protection from fire blocks, and the short immunity to lava. At one moment, pirates decided to show up, but with the structure of my base, the only threat I had to face were the parrots. Whilst the Dutchman got stuck and other mobs dropped down into the lava, I got extremely lucky. Within one invasion, I got both the discount card and gold ring. Feeling confident enough, I decided to take down Queen Slime. I was aiming for two specific items: the gelatinous pillion, an upgraded slimy saddle with more mobility, and the blade staff. Although some might consider the blade staff weak, I find it to be rather cool and wanted to use it. To those wondering, I received the Shadow Flame knife from the goblin army that invaded prior to the fight. Queen Slime is similar to King Slime. In her first phase, she bounces around and summons different kinds of slime while shooting projectiles that bounce around. In her second phase, she takes to the sky, keeping her previous moveset. In general, Queen Slime isn't difficult and is well suited to be the first boss of Hardmode. Running left to right in her second phase, changing directions whenever she fires her projectiles, and keeping an eye on her summons is a solid strategy to beat her. The next boss on the list were the twins. I would consider the twins to be the easiest out of the trio of mechanical bosses, with Skeletron being second and Destroyer third. The first twin that I go for is Spasmatism, because his charges and fire breathing in his second phase are harder to avoid compared to Retinazer, who, if left in his first phase, wouldn't do much with his laser. An easy way to take out Retinazer in his second phase is to fly straight up on one of his sides whenever he starts to rapid fire, and come down when it finishes, to move to his other side and repeat. With most bosses, I would suggest keeping the nurse close by to heal if necessary. Still having buffs active, I decided to take the twins on again, and came out with another victory. With the hallowed bars obtained, I crafted the hallowed armor set, amazing gear that can even carry some players to end game. With its holy protection buff, the set gives players a guaranteed dodge from an attack, with a 30-second cooldown, giving players options for insane builds. For more variety, I crafted the magic harp, since I almost never use it, and decided to shine some light on it. In addition to the harp, I bought upgraded sentries from the Tavern Keep. Even though I consider the Destroyer to be the hardest mechanical boss, I had his summon at the ready, and decided to take him on. There isn't much I can say about the Destroyer, except to always be aware of the location of his head, since that is the most hard-hitting part of his body, and by following his head, the movement of the boss gets easier to track and predict. similar to the Eternal Worlds. In addition, the probes that spawn also drop hearts upon death, so keeping an eye on them also helps. With more hallowed bars, I crafted the Durandal, the next whip in progression. Whilst doing the Old One's army, I received the Tome of Infinite Wisdom, a really good crowd control weapon. Summoning the Blood Moon to fish, I was on the hunt to acquire the Sanguine Staff, a really powerful summon dropped by Dreadnoughtalus, a rather interesting enemy with a moveset of summoning adds, shooting projectiles, and spinning around the player. The fight can prove challenging, but is definitely doable and is worth it for the summon. Preparing for a future boss fight, I set up an arena in the ocean biome, so that when the time comes, I'll be prepared to take on Duke Fishron. The construction of the arena had to be put on pause, since Skeletron Prime was eager for his demise, and so I went home in anticipation for the last mechanical boss. Skeletron Prime is of course similar to Skeletron, just with extra limbs, meaning the fight is basically the same. Dodge the head and limbs, avoid the spinning head attack, and take out the limbs as soon as possible. For this fight, I would recommend area of effect weapons to damage multiple limbs. With all the souls from the mechanical bosses acquired, I was able to craft the Pickaxe Axe, a pickaxe capable of mining chlorophyte, which is used in multiple late to end game crafts. In addition to that, I made the Avenger emblem, giving me a general 12% damage increase, and also used in making multiple accessories. Guys, you know what madness is? I don't know how many in-game days that I have waited for a sandstorm to happen. I set up a platform with a bed on top to fast forward time, and it still took me a long time. Whilst waiting, I did fishing quests, sat at the farm, and had 2 solar eclipses happen. By the time a sandstorm happened, I obtained a Neptune shell, moon charm, flesh knuckles, and with the power glove, made berserker gloves. Finally, I was able to craft the Spirit Flame and Forbidden Armor, just in case. Apart from building and farming, I also explored the jungle in search for life fruits to increase my health to the maximum. I couldn't find the shimmer in my world, and not wanting to waste any more time, I went into a different world that had the shimmer, and turned a few items into useful buffs, giving me more health and mana regen, defense, mining and placement speed, fishing power, and increasing the number of items sold by the traveling merchant. Upon completion of the arena, and whilst progressing onward, I attempted Duke Fishron multiple times, but always ended up dying just before or whilst his 3rd phase was active. Needless to say, Fishron continued to be a thorn in my side, whilst I continued the normal progression of the game. Leaving Duke Fishron aside, I decided to prepare the arena for Clan Terra. So, I got to it by bombing and digging out an arena in the jungle. What I would suggest is placing the closest platform to the ground higher up in order to avoid the bouncing spiky balls. In general, with the gear available at this point, Clan Terra isn't a difficult boss. With the previously mentioned tip, the spiky balls stay at the bottom of the arena. Keeping an eye on her movement and the tentacles that appear in her second phase leads to a victory. Whilst taking on another pirate invasion, I got lucky and obtained the lucky coin, the last item needed to craft the greedy ring, an ultimate money accessory, increasing coin pickup range, lowering shop prices by 20%, and making enemies drop more coins. The next step for me was to head to the dungeon. I prepared by grabbing all the biome keys that I had acquired and set off. My main tasks were to farm ectoplasm, get the tabby, black belt, paladin shield, morning star, and unlock all the biome chests. The Staff of Frost Hydra and Desert Tiger Staff are two weapons that I usually overlook and would usually not use, but they have proven themselves to be very useful, and I was quite pleasantly surprised when using them. The Master Ninja Gear is an ultimate mobility upgrade, giving me an upgraded dash and chance to dodge an attack. Rather than using an Ankh Shield, which is another ultimate accessory, I decided to make the Frozen Shield, giving me the benefits from the Frozen Shell and Paladin Shield. In order to gain stronger summoner gear, I had to take on the Pumpkin Ring for armor, accessories, and weapons. It took multiple nights to get all the gear I wanted. Most usually skip the Empress of Light, but for those who conquer her are rewarded with strong gear, especially summoners if she is defeated in her enraged state during the day. For now, I was aiming for the Kaleidoscope, the last whip of Hardmode. Finally, Duke Fishron. After many failed attempts, I was dedicated to finally claim my victory. For this fight, I would recommend the Gelatinous Pillion to ascend and descend quickly. Build an asphalt road at the bottom, and try to keep his tornadoes at the sides of the arena, or higher up to be able to run under them. You can tell when the tornadoes will come by keeping an eye on the circles he launches at you. I was rather proud of my victory, so instead of cutting parts out, I left the entire fight in. I took him on second time, since I was looking for the Razor Blade Typhoon. After defeating such monstrous beings, Golem becomes a cakewalk, and is considered by many Terrarians to be really weak. Golem is the last trial before the endgame, and after his defeat, gives players access to powerful gear. In general, the way to beat him is by building a platform near the roof of the room and running side to side, dropping down if necessary. With the defeat of Golem, I acquired the Sunstone, the last item needed to craft the Celestial Shell, an ultimate accessory, giving me tons of useful buffs. Now doing a bit of cleanup, I took on the last phase of the Old One's army, taking down Betsy. The Martians were on the list as well. From the event, I got the influx waiver. Some base expanding and decoration. Now, going against the challenge that caused even more deaths than Fishron. Daytime Empress of Light. Any of her attacks during the day are capable of one-shotting the player, making her really difficult, especially with her attacks being all over the place, but still having a pattern. All I can say is that practice makes perfect, and attempting her multiple times should yield results. It took me over 30 tries until a solid attempt happened, and victory was achieved. There are ways to cheese her, but I decided that a pro would take the challenge head on, and in the same fashion as Duke Fishron, I left the entire fight in. Upon the defeat, the Terraria Pro is rewarded with the Terra Prisma, the ultimate summoner weapon. Now, on the final stretch, I needed to defeat the Lunatic Cultist to start the lunar events. The Cultist can prove challenging. In general, I would say to try to be close to the ground, and when there are multiple of his clones in a summoning circle, the real one is quite distinguishable from the rest, so take a small amount of time to focus. For the pillars, there are different strategies for each. The Nebula pillar is easier done when constantly moving around, so that the brain sucklers won't have a chance to latch on. For the Stardust pillar, players should also move around a lot, but also defeat the multiplying enemies quickly, since they can overwhelm you. For the solar pillar, standing on the ground and not flying, since the flying centipedes can become a real pain. Finally, for the vortex pillar, it is necessary to move up and down constantly in order to not get hit by lightning or the shotgun enemies, as well as getting your movement controlled. Meanwhile, the last challenge of Hardmode. Took me a few attempts, but nothing by this point could stop me from achieving victory. The strategy here is to try and take out his eyes at the same time. Prioritize the center eye whenever it opens, and be wary of the massive laser. Using any mount that has infinite flight can help maneuver and dodge the laser. Just for fun, and as a last goal, I gathered all the required swords to craft the Zenith, the ultimate sword. And with that, I completed the self-proclaimed pros Master Mode playthrough. I want to thank everyone who showed support in the previous part and those who watched this video. I hope you enjoyed it.